We talked about this a little bit earlier this week, the family reunification camps, and you may have seen stories on this. They've been popping up either in the Republic or I saw, it was an Easy Family that had a story on this as well. It also became law. I guess I should say it became law that it can't be in the law. It's been banned now. The family reunification camps, and Joe, you feel free to correct me if I miss something here. Mm-hmm. The idea is that if you have kids whose parents are separate, and the court feels that one parent is not close with the children because, in the court's opinion, the other parent is brainwashing the children, then the court can remove the children from the parent that they would rather be with to send them to a reunification camp and, as I put it, re-brainwash them, and then basically keep those kids away from the parent they want to be with and force them to be with the parent they don't want to be with after they go through brainwash camp.
That is spot on. The only thing I would add is that from what we've read, there is no psychological diagnosis or backing to any of that. But that is what the courts can do.
We talked with our licensed therapist this week about this too, and he was not really in favor of these camps. He didn't see the advantage of it, if I can put words in his mouth. So we talked about the story of Adam Venitas, who has been through hell and back on this. The kids wanted to be with Adam. And he had the kids taken away, sent to one of these family reunification camps in Texas. And the family reunification camp told him, you need to send your kids a letter of apology for brainwashing them. And he said, but I didn't. And that's become a point of contention as well. So we invited Adam to be on the program with us today. So Adam Venitas is joining us in the studio. Also with us, and I can't wait to hear her experience, is Tori Neilsen, who is an 18-year-old who was ordered, not related to Adam, by the way. She's just got a separate experience. Ordered by a Maricopa County judge a couple of years ago to go to Building Family Bridges, which is a reunification program in California. All right. So start here with Adam.
Sure.
Buddy, I read your story. I mean, the more I read, the more my jaw dropped on all of this. You went to jail for a period of time.
That's right. So
I guess take us back to the beginning. You and your wife at the time, you split.
Yep.
How did custody work out at that point?
Yeah, so she left our marital home in 2021, okay. And we had 3 kids. And she left to try to get the kids to go with her. They all said, no, I want to stay with Dad.
And how old are the kids?
At the time, they were 15, 12, and 6.
It was your oldest was a daughter, and then your
two sons.
2 youngers were 2 boys. Yep.
You
okay.
got it.
All right.
And so they all say, no, thank you. I want to stay with Dad. So she filed for divorce and then basically took me through the courts trying to get the children back.
Anybody that's ever been through that knows that process in and of itself is it is a nightmare anyway.
Yes. Yeah, it's a meat grinder. It feels like it's
horrible.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of stress.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
And lawyers love it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You are such a payday for them.
Yeah.
So then when do we get to the point where there's accusations of brainwashing going on that the courts feel they need to intercede?
Yeah. So basically the kids kept refusing to go with their mother. Mm-hmm. And so it was basically forced upon me to hire, along with my ex, a court psychologist who then spews the same thing where the kids need to be back with their mom. I don't care what they say, what they think, with their experiences. They're not listened to. The children aren't listened to. Their whole job is to force the child back with the parent that they don't want to be with.
Okay. Forced relationships.
Yes.
Was
and
there
you had to pay for all that too.
Yeah. So it's an insanely amount of money, and most families who can afford this type of stuff are the ones that are getting pulled into it. The families that cannot afford it aren't pulled into this type of litigation and the psychology, the counseling and the camps. This cannot be found everywhere. Not every family court case where the kids are resisting to go with a parent go through these camps. Only ones that can afford it.
So was this a situation where the kids just didn't want to go with their mother did you have joint custody? Was it a 50-50 sitch?
Yeah, right away, we basically both agreed on 50-50. We both said we were fit parents. The court said we were fit parents, but the one issue was the kids were not going with
They
their
didn't
mother.
want to go.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
All
so
right.
the court, using the court psychologist, essentially forces the kids and were trying to force me to force them to go with their mom, and it was resulting in suicidal ideations and runaway attempts and all sorts of other things. So the whole thing was blowing up.
Oh my gosh.
And the children were doing worse. They weren't eating. You know, they were worried about when the next time someone was going to show up to take them. So it was a huge stressful situation even before the camp, leading up to the camp.
All right, so you've got psychological trauma being inflicted on these kids to start with. The courts then say, this isn't working. We have to send these kids to an intense, it's love your mom boot camp in this case, right? In many cases, I know it's probably a love your dad boot camp, right?
Yeah.
But in this case, it was you will learn to love your mother or else.
Yeah, so the judge called it a nuclear decision in my case.
Wow.
So she said, there's no other options essentially, so we're going to force it. And in order to do that, they threw me in jail for 8 days.
Because you refused to...
Yeah, I can't really talk about too many of the particulars, but essentially, I wasn't able to get the kids by force to go to the courtroom so that they could take them to the camp. The kids resisted.
Yeah.
And so I showed up alone, and I was thrown in jail.
Okay. All right. So you showed up, said the kids couldn't get him to go. Okay.
Yeah.
At some point, did the court psychologist sit down with you and your ex and start working on parenting techniques? Did they work with your ex to figure out what it is that is making the relationship between her and the kids strained? What other steps came before this, as the judge put it, the nuclear option?
So, with the court-appointed psychologist, he did sit down, talked with my ex, talked with me. The conversation with me, he already had made his mind up. I expected to kind of have be able to share my full story and kind of how we got there. He wasn't interested. Okay. He had already kind of decided what was going on, even from the get-go. He did interview my kids. They were all crying when they left his office. They were super frustrated because no one's listening to them either.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's going on with your kids today? What do you know about their lives right now?
So fast forward, it's been a year since I've seen them. So after I got back out of jail, I came to an empty home. My 2 boys had been taken to a camp and were with their mother in Texas. And then my daughter had run away, and she's been missing child. She's been missing for a year.
She's still gone?
She's still gone. Yeah.
Do you know, I'm not going to put you on the spot because I don't want it to be used against you. Do you know if she's okay?
I don't know that, but she's sent in letters to social media saying she is okay.
Okay.
So I'm hoping and praying
so
that
there's some solace there.
Yeah, and she's drawn pictures and stuff, so she has very unique pictures that she draws, and so I feel like those are definitely from her. She says she's safe.
Okay.
She says she's not coming out of hiding until she can be with me.
All right. Adam Venitas is joining us right now. He had his kids taken away and sent to a family reunification camp, which in 90 days from the close of the legislature, if I'm recalling my procedures correctly, the new ban on the reunification treatments in Arizona will go into effect, and this won't happen to anyone else. But is it too little too late? For somebody like Adam, probably. So what's the why? Why was this ever a law in the first place? Who thought this was a good idea? Joe and I sitting with Adam Venitas, and we also have Tori Neilsen with us right now. Adam had his kids taken away and sent to a family reunification camp, which Governor Hobbs just signed a bill that would ban those as being an option for the courts to assign. If the courts feel like kids in a divided household are not relating very well to one parent over the other, they can be taken away and sent to one of these reunification camps, which are not cheap, by the way. And then the kids would have to live with that parent until they learn to love them, essentially. The parent, who was the favored parent in that case, oftentimes is subjected to, I would call it humiliating, where they would have to even write a letter saying that they apologize to their kids for brainwashing them, which feels creepy to me. So Adam Venitas is with us right now, and I don't want to leave Tori out. She's doing such a great job sitting here patiently. She was in one of these camps, and her little brother still is, right?
Yes,
yeah.
He still is with our father. It's been almost 3 years for him. So
wow.
It's been a long time. So I really am wanting to get him out of there because, my mom deserves to have custody of him as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and she can only see him very limited right now, which costs hundreds of dollars a week just for a few hours to see him. So
I don't even care about the cost. I care about the tears that she loses in the meantime. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
We have a ton to ask you. So, my gosh, we have a ton to ask you. Adam, we wanted to explore the why here. So why would the court put this action in place? You even described it. The judge said that it was the nuclear option for him. I asked a question before we went to break about the court-appointed psychologist and how much counseling they did with the parents. You felt like you weren't being listened to. Your kids said they felt like they weren't being listened to either. Why would the court even opt for the nuclear option, which they won't be able to do in another 3 months? But why even do this in the first place?
Well, I think it's primarily money-driven. This is a huge moneymaker. When you have a family in conflict, and these poor kids are being, thrust into the middle of it. They don't choose it, but they know both parents most likely will fight for those children, and so it generates an extremely insane amount of money very quickly, right? Through attorneys, through counseling, through courts. We're talking millions of dollars, not just thousands.
So you think this may be a sort of a systemic thing? I don't think the judges are making kickbacks on this or anything, but I mean, systemically, there's no incentive for the lawyers, or certainly no incentive for the camps to stop doing this or to recognize harm that may come of it.
Correct. Yeah, and a lot of them have immunity, and so even if you went after them, they're protected, and so it's been a struggle to a lot of the parents that I've talked to, and especially myself too, we struggle on the why as well. Like, how could this be happening, and how could this be allowed? And so once you get over that it's happening and they're getting away with it, then you go into like more of like just fight mode. You're in a war and you're like, I got to survive this thing, and so you stop, really asking the why. You got to go to what do you got to do next to survive.
We're talking with Adam Venitas right now. He's been through hell and back, is what I would say. His family, he doesn't get to see his kids. They had to go to a reunification camp. Is that what they call these dang things? I saw in an article today that you've actually been court ordered to stop speaking about your case in any public forum. Why was that decided?
I think out of what was told to me was out of the protection of the children, to keep, the matters private for the protection of the children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So why are you choosing to speak up about it and share your experience?
Yeah, I think, and I'm walking, obviously a line, but I want to make sure that I'm truthful, and I feel like, God has put me into this position to try to protect as many families and as kids as possible. And so I'm going to share my truth and what I've experienced with as many as I can. I want to shine a light, and I'm so thankful that the Senate bill just got signed into law.
This may be a question that's difficult to answer because sometimes it would be tough to see the forest through the trees, right? Mm-hmm. What would have been the right choice by the courts? I mean, you said that this was the nuclear solution. If it's up to the courts and they had to do it again and you were recommending this for another family, what would you say? Listen, this is what we should be doing.
Yeah, I think ultimately, number one, you need to listen to the children. They know best. They know they have to live with that parent. So if they choose a parent that's not in their best interest, just say a parent is just a Disneyland dad or whatever, just giving them everything they want. That gets old. Kids want security. They want to know that the parent's going to show up and has their best interests. And so, number one, especially the older children, they need to be listened to. And then secondly, I think the professionals that are involved in talking with the children and getting their thoughts can't be making money off of this. It needs to be a neutral party that just honestly wants what's best for the children, not what's best for someone's pocketbook.
Is it the money was, you said it was your ex and you both had to pay the psychologist in this case, right? So I mean,
well, I end up footing pretty much all the bills. Yeah,
and then you paid for the camp as well. I'm assuming too, which saw $15,000 for a 4-day camp.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, you had to pay for the camp too?
Oh yeah. So what happens is most of the time the other parent, non-preferred parent, will pay for it initially.
Yeah.
And then in the court order, it'll always say just subject to reallocation, which is code for
reimbursement.
The other parent's paying for everything. And so they've sold my house against my will, and now I don't have a home. And so then the judge knew that, and so they knew how much money I was worth, and so it's been all liquidated to pay for this camp. Yeah.
Adam Venitas is a father of 3 kids who went to one of these unification camps. His daughter ran away from her mother, has been missing since she ran away. How long? A year and a half, you said?
Just over a year now.
Just over a year?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the two boys still with their mother right now. And as far as you know, physically, they're safe, but obviously this is a traumatic experience for them, too, especially one of them is into the adolescent puberty years, too. Boy, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
And then the other one is navigating elementary school, too, which, of course, is not easy. Yeah. I want to Tori Neilsen is with us here. And, Tori, you aged out of one of these camps, so you were sent to one of these to begin with.
Yes.
You've probably heard Adam's story 1,000 times, right? I mean, you've talked to the legislature, you've talked to numerous people about this. Mm-hmm. Does it hit home when he starts talking about these things? I mean, your perspective is totally different. Do you think about your parents? Do you think about your mom, your dad, the relationships, that sort of thing? When you hear this, do you think, "Oh man, I feel it this way"?
It all I don't know. It makes sense to me. It seems like, I've talked to a lot of people, heard a lot of stories, and it's very, it overlaps a lot. It's a lot of the same situations, the same psychologists put on, and so that just goes to show, too, that the motive is money. I mean, I've even talked to kids from, all over the country that have gone to the same camp as me, and so... Yeah, it really does hit home, and especially when Adam says, the kids, especially the older kids, need a voice. Absolutely. And, when a kid is kicking and screaming, I mean, ever since I was 7 years old, I would scream and cry and kick and scream every time I had to go to my dad's. And, no therapist or anyone ever cared about that. They didn't listen to my feelings. They just keep forcing and forcing and forcing. So I went through, I don't even know how many therapists have been on our case that, just keep trying to force it. I've had... them tell me that I'm a liar when I report abuse that's going on. And, these people that get on the case that claim to be in your best interest, we had a best interest attorney. She's the one that pushed me and my brother to go to Building Family Bridges so much. She never even talked to us before that. I never met her, never spoke to her on the phone, yet she thinks that she knows what's in our best interest. So, yeah, it's interesting.
So let me go back to Adam then. Did you feel at some point that the court decision was all about expediency, about getting you off the docket, about moving through the system? Do we think let's bring in the next case?
Well, not necessarily, because we were still going through it. It's been almost 3 years, and I'm probably going to be going through it until the boys age out at 18. That's another 10 years. Oh. A lot of the parents that we talked to have been going on at 7, 10 years, have spent $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, 14 attorneys, and this is it just never ends.
Wow. Seems like a war of attrition. You said it was like going to war. It seems like a war of attrition.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit more with Tori here coming up, because I'm really interested in what you were just saying there, Tori. And obviously, Adam's story continues to go on. The bill has been signed. It will not happen to anybody else, at least in the near future, so far as we can tell.
But it doesn't mean anything for Adam's case and what's already happened.
And it doesn't bring Tori's little brother home either.
No.
So we'll talk about that here in just a few moments. I can't even imagine that. These are not the summer camps that you and I grew up with. So we will talk with Tori. We'll go inside one of those camps, and we'll see how her life has changed. Better or worse? Probably one of the more heart-wrenching programs that we've done here, Joe, and that is talking about the family reunification camps, which, as of today, as far as I know, has been signed into law that they are banned. Can't send kids to family reunification camps anymore. This is when the court feels like you've got one parent has alienated the children from the other parent through brainwashing, and the courts determine that, and then they decide we're going to send you to an intensive psychological training camp where you will learn to love the other parent, and then you will go live with that other parent until you've learned to love them sufficiently and can express to the court how much you love them.
And if you don't,
nine.
Yeah, you never get to go back to your other parent until you turn 18.
You don't. And then the other parent is left to, I guess, play the patsy, and in many cases is left to pay the bill.
Without their kid.
Without their child involved. Joining us right now, not only do we have Adam Venitas, who's in studio with us, and his story has been popularizes this narrative about this, the family reunification camps that's come out. But Tori Neilsen is 18, right, Tori? Yeah.
Yes.
So you were a part of this. You went to one of these reunification camps, and then you were living with your dad at the time, and then you aged out. So you hit 18, and because when you're 17 and a half, you're obviously an immature child, but at 12:01 on your 18th birthday, you are as mature as any adult ever need be. And so when that happened, phew, like Roadrunner, out the door, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Talk to me about going to that camp. When you found out that you had to go to this reunification camp, how was that presented to you? And then what was it like when the time came that you had to go?
So the court doesn't want the kids to know ahead of time that you're going to the camp. Like the good parent, like so my mom, they're just ordered to bring the kids to the courthouse, and if they don't, like Adam went to jail, like threatened with jail, fines, and contempt. And so we went to the courthouse on the day and time that was ordered.
But you didn't know why you were going to the courthouse. You just had to get in the car and go?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
So we go, and like in the courthouse on the, like, I don't remember what floor it was, but there was 4 like transporters waiting for us, and I didn't know who they were yet. And then our best interest attorney, and she's the one who got on the case and started saying they need to go to building family bridges, but she had never met me or my brother, talked to us on the phone. We didn't know what each other looked like, but yeah, she's telling the court what's best for us. So she was there, and then these 4 transporters. So it was like 3 big, intimidating men, and then 1 woman, and that's for me because I'm a girl. And they basically just like close in on you in this room, and they're like, you know, they make you say goodbye to your mom, like, quickly. And then our mom had to leave. And then they took us down, like, out of the courthouse, right across the street in front of the courthouse on the sidewalk. They pat you down. They touch you. They take everything that you have, pretty much. Like, basically all we had was, like, the clothes on our body. And, you know, they threaten you. And it's not just this when you're leaving. It's the whole journey there. They say, you know, if you have anything else, you need to give it to us, or you're not going to see your mom. Your mom's going to go to jail. Like, it's constant threats. And so they basically just search everything, throw you in the back of a van. So me and my brother were in the back of this van together with these strangers, and they just leave. They don't tell us where we're going, what's going on. And for them, it's like, it's fun. Like, they're laughing, they're talking, they're getting all the food they want, but we're just in the back seat of this car,
Terrifying.
like trembling, like crying, like we held hands the whole time. Like, we're just like in shock. Like, we don't know what's going on. We don't know where we're going. And so...
You're basically being like legally kidnapped.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Across
so...
state lines.
Yeah. So they trafficked us to California, but they didn't tell us where we were. And anytime we had to go to the bathroom or anything, you have to have 1 transporter with you. You can't latch the door shut. They stand right in front of you, like, no privacy, nothing. It's insane. They treat you like criminals. And honestly, that's what this whole court system does. They treat you like you did something wrong when you're just an innocent child. So, and then we had to stay the night with these people in a hotel. And that night, they barricaded the hotel room door shut with, like, all the furniture, like the desk chair and everything, so that if we were to try to escape in the middle of the night, we couldn't. So I was just seeing that, and, like, I was just in disbelief. I didn't know what was going on, what to think. I'm like, they hadn't even told us at this point yet that we're going to be seeing our dad or anything. They didn't tell us. And, another parent that's gone through this has said, my kids could have been taken to Mexico and, sold or whatever, and I wouldn't have known. They don't even tell the good parent where we're going either. So nobody knows where we are. And so then the next morning, they're like, you're going to have a meeting with your dad. That's all they say. So then they took us across the street to another hotel. This is in Ventura, California, is where my camp was. And so basically we were in, like, a conference type room that they use for meetings at hotels, I guess. And in there waiting for us was our dad and his girlfriend, who I can go more into, but we didn't have a good relationship with her either. And then Randy Rand, who runs Building Family Bridges, who had his license suspended and isn't allowed to be practicing these camps. And then 2 other, like, therapists, counselors, whatever. So basically what they do is they read us the court order, and said you can't have contact with your mom or her family for 90 days. They say it's 90 days, but then when the 90 days comes around, it's another 90 days. They always find some reason, no matter if you reunify or not, there's always some reason to keep you with the parent that you don't want to be with. So, and then basically the camp just is 4 days, 8 hours a day of like watching videos. You have to answer questions. It's just brainwashing, interrogating. They threaten to send you to a wilderness camp if you don't cooperate. And so me and my brother were just, still like in shock, like just crying. Like I tried not even to think about the videos because I knew that they were trying to brainwash us. And so they try to like rewire your memories. They tell you have false memories. You can't bring up the past. That's like a rule. It's another rule that like, it's called Blackboard. Basically anything you say can be taken back. And so it's just like, they call it paradigm shift. They're trying to flip like your whole life and what you've ever known to be like the opposite and blame everything on your good parent. And so that's basically what it was for 4 days. So.
And then 90 days, and then 90 days, and then 90 days, and then
Exactly.
90 days.
Where you're just stuck with dad, with your brother, until now you're 18 years old. We're talking with Tori Neilsen. She's 18 now, which at the time she was ordered by a Maricopa County judge back in 2021, Chris, to attend Building Family Bridges. And Tori was just walking through with us what that reunification program in California and Ventura looked like.
And her brother is still with her dad right now, and she aged out. In other words, she turned 18, so she got some sort of relief. So now that the law is vetoed in the courts, they're going to be looking for a new method of keeping parents and children, quote unquote, united. You suppose they have a plan? So Governor Hobbs, in between recordings with CBS and The View and MSNBC, signed a bill in the courts that signed a bill banning the courts from prescribing family reunification camps that would force kids to love their estranged parent. Some politicians disagree. They said that the courts should have had every option available, even if that option is not recommended by psychologists and has mixed track record at best. I think that's even being kind, wouldn't you say? So now what? Now what options do the courts have? And with us right now, our guest, Adam Venitas, who is a father that's gone through this. He's lost custody of his kids. His kids went to a family reunification camp. He was ordered to write letters to them apologizing for being a good dad. And his daughter ran away. When she went back to live with her mom, she took off. Nobody's seen her in over a year. However, he does feel that she's safe at this time anyway because of some social media posts. His boys are still with their mom. Tori Neilsen is an 18-year-old who went through one of these camps. She's aged out. Her brother is still living with her dad, and she just relayed to us kind of the horror story of being in one of these camps. And we should also point out, we were talking a moment ago, Tori, you made mention of going to a hotel room or a hotel conference room. So when we say a reunification camp, it isn't like this is there's no parent trap camp going on here, right? This isn't like you've got canoes next to a lake and cabins that everybody's staying in. This is not really even a piece of owned property.
No, it's very misleading when they call it a reunification camp. It might sound like a good thing, reuniting with a parent, but it's the complete opposite. And yeah, there's no brick and mortar for any of these camps. They run them all across the country, depending on, whatever state the court decides or whatever, out of just, a hotel. And it's top secret. Like our hotel had on the board of events, Neilsen Building Family Bridges, and all the counselors and my dad and everyone sprint up to the front desk and demand that it be taken down. Like it is top secret. They do not want anyone to know that they're running these camps.
Wow. Adam, what do we do now? Because we know that there are strained relationships. I'm not going to give too much of my own firsthand experience, but I'm a stepdad, and so I witnessed. I've been married once, my wife twice, and so I witnessed the strain that goes on to the kids, to her, and to her ex-husband. I know how difficult that can be, and I know how much the kids can get caught up in the middle of it. What can the courts do? Now they don't have this option. Although we should point out, too, that camps can still operate in Arizona. It's just that the courts can't send any kids to the reunification camps.
Not from Arizona, at least.
Right.
And another state could send a kid to Arizona.
To an Arizona camp. I guess we're importing the tax dollars, I guess, is the logic. So what can they do? Is it just more intense psychological meetings during or therapy during, the shared custody?
Yeah, I've often wondered the same thing. I truly believe if you give the children an opportunity to express themselves and why they feel the way they do, why they're resisting the other parent, and they are able to tell a professional who has no horse in the race, who just wants what's best for them, I think the ultimate outcome would be the best that it could be, which would be, the children are safe, they feel protected, and their best interests are being, put as the priority. I don't know if that's possible, but we've racked our brain about jury trials instead of having judges doing the decision making. A lot of parents have thought about all sorts of different things, but it always seems to come back down to listen to the children, and they know even as 4, 6, 8 years old, they know why they don't want to be with parent. They just need someone to listen to them.
Tori, do you think you'll ever have a relationship with your father? Do you see that down the road as being something that, maybe he gets some help and maybe there's an opportunity to repair that bridge?
I mean, I have always, throughout my whole childhood when I was forced to go with him, I never had a good relationship with him, even when my parents were married. Just like Adam said, there are reasons early on that, you don't want to have a relationship with that parent. And I always, tried to tell him how I was feeling. Like, if you stop being so forceful, like if you don't stop, I'm not going to have a relationship with you when I turn 18. And that's pretty much exactly what's happened. It's just so hard because my brother is still over there. But, I don't think that I'm ever going to have. It's a
long journey anyway if it happens, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Tori Neilsen, Adam Venitas, guys, the hour flew by. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. I think it touched a lot of people who have had those disagreements with their spouses, and maybe they just go, listen, we got to figure something out because it could be a lot worse, right?
Absolutely.
We appreciate you being on the show today.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe, and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.